Okay, let's get into The Conjuring. 257. Conjuring 3 logo officially revealed. So everybody knows about The Conjuring. So what it was inspired by. The Warrens, obviously, original case from Warren, Massachusetts. But Elizabeth Warren has passed away since.
It was based in Massachusetts?
Yeah, so I don't really Warren is too many people they don't know exactly who they are, but if you are a paranormal investigator like I was back in the day, or if you are into paranormal investigation like watching those fake shows, Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures, because they're both fake. If you want to know, Ed and Ray
now they are. At first they weren't, but then
Ed and Ray Warren, they're known for many cases, like for instance, the Conjuring, which was the Perron family, which was the first case that was placed in a movie. Then the Amityville horror case, which is well known for George and Kathy Lutz, and then the DeFeos, which happened before the Lutz. They didn't do the DeFeos because the story is kind of mixed up in some people's eyes what they view, but it's just a story they follow. They also took care of the Annabelle doll, and if you go to Connecticut, you can actually go to their hotel, their haunted museum of attractions, and visit the actual Annabelle doll. You cannot touch it. You cannot go near it. You cannot go even go into the border of the Annabelle doll because it actually believed it is haunted and still cursed to this day. That they actually had to have a priest come in there and bless it every time they had to move it.
Wasn't the original doll supposed to be a Raggedy Ann?
It was a Raggedy Ann doll. And then the other cases, which is the haunting in Connecticut, which is the one about the kid who had, I believe, cancer and moved closer to home.
Yeah.
And then the Conjuring 3, which is supposedly loosely based on the South End werewolf. If you don't know the story of the South End werewolf, if you look it up, there is a dark story to this, and there's a spot in the story where they talk about how this gentleman actually escaped his jail cell and said he got through a hole like this and escaped through it, and he was a big person, got right through it, no problem. And it's because he said the demon of the werewolf inside of him caused him to shapeshift and form. Why are you laughing?
I still remember that freaking video you showed me, that cheesy one.
So he believed he was a werewolf, and he believed he basically got through the jail cell because of his transformation. And then the last one that's fully known is the trial of Arn Cheyenne Johnson, which the whole story is like he believes the devil made him do his deeds. Mm-hmm. So they have a lot of cases that going against their history. But Lorraine Warren, at the age of 93, I believe, just passed away a couple of days ago. Her wife passed away years prior, and they're known for their demonologist cases and all their case studies. And the paranormal investigation world lost a very important person in the paranormal world, because she was, whether her stories were true, whether her stories were stretched or not, I still believe that she did have a huge influence on a lot of things happening in the paranormal investigation world.
Okay, the one thing that she did obviously inspired people like myself and yourself, because I was part of also a paranormal investigation group for a while. And we came to our own conclusion. We actually came up with some crazy evidence too. But the one thing obviously I looked into a lot of these people, like Elizabeth Warren, because kind of looked up to them a little bit. But Lorraine Warren, and the reason why, because I have a different take of it. Because when I was part of the paranormal group, I was like, "That's crazy." And the reason why I did it, because I've seen stuff. I've seen more than a few things.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like into it. But the one thing I wanted to do that pissed me off, and the one thing that really pissed me off, is when I found out. This was before the first Ghost Hunters episode even aired, that they were faking it.
Well,
and I was like, this is like, this one set me down a rabbit hole. And I was like, okay, if we're going to do this, we have to be 100% authentic. And I was like, and I started looking into a lot of people that I idolize, like as ghost adventures, or not the ghost adventures are horrible. And other people that ghost, like people that investigate ghosts. I was like, these people have to be 100% authentic. And I looked into a lot of people, and a good portion of the Warrens cases were fairly legit. They weren't terribly interesting unless you're an actually paranormal investigator.
Yeah.
But to the average person, they're gonna be like, oh, it's kind of boring. because nothing crazy happened. But and they sense like. Obviously, they over-centralize some of the cases. And, obviously, The Conjuring was inspired by one of their most famous cases, even though nothing happened. But somebody saw it as a good opportunity to write a story off of, which they did. And the movie's good.
It's like Haunting in Connecticut, like, there was no bodies in the walls.
I personally think, though, the bad choice they did was revealing where the house was or what it was, because the people that actually owned the house in Warren, kept on having people show up at the house, but they shouldn't have told people where the house was.
So they told these stories to like movie directors or whatever? Or
no,
writers?
Like they sold the rights.
Okay.
Edgar and Warren, I don't want to say they were cash cows, but at the same time, who wouldn't want to pass off a story that has some sort of history and some sort of entertainment value? Like if I had a story about the time I caught like 3 EVPs in one of my friend's house where it told me to get out, which is absolutely true, then I would sell those rights immediately. Like I know for a fact when I was a ghost, when I was a ghost hunter, like I used to have sights and see. I could feel things in the air.
Yeah,
I can feel like the negative energy. I can sense when there's something possibly in the area. I still do to this day, but the problem is I haven't followed up and going to doing cases. But the way I did it was after watching Ghost Hunters, when I first thought it was real, I thought it was an interesting take to try to disprove the haunting. So every time I went to a place to do hauntings, I try to disprove everything. So what I would do is I would take my tape recorder, I'll drop it in a room, and say the time, the place, the date, and walk away.
Well, yeah.
And then leave it there for an hour or 20 minutes, and then go home and review an hour and 20 minutes of audio.
Well, yeah.
And then I would just say, listen, I can prove all this was here because I was in another room down a couple rooms over. So all this was there.
No, okay, so just in brief here, though, so I do have to ask you, Ben, because I think we've never really talked about this. I'm sure some people would be interested in, because I came to a semi-conclusion by the time our paranormal group kind of dispelled a little bit.
Like, went away?
No. Okay, so we didn't particularly, my paranormal group, I used to, friends move different places, people do, their careers change. But I personally came in, with another person in the group, came to a kind of conclusion what was actually happening. What's actually happening?
With the ghosts?
With ghosts.
I haven't come to any conclusion. It's still a mystery to me. The thing with the group I had originally, which had a horrible name, I called it APE. Ashaway Paranormal and Investigators. Investigators. Yeah, I was young and dumb.
That's fine.
But anyways, when my group eventually what happened was people just started getting disinterested.
Ghostbusters.
They're not interested because the thing with doing this stuff, you have to keep your stuff upgraded. You cannot go and keep the same equipment. You can't have a tape recorder, although that's the best way to get EVPs.
Yeah.
All right. But you can't just go in there and be like, all right, well, I'm going to use this forever. No, and we didn't have the money. We didn't have the time. Everyone got jobs. Everyone decided, well, I don't believe in some of this stuff anymore. I still, to this day, have the feeling of places that I would like to go and investigate. I would like to bring the group back. I would like to make another 2.0 version of what we had before and start over. But the thing is, I'd be more intelligent to what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, how many years ago did we go?
It was so fucking long ago.
It was a long time ago. There's this place that I know of.
Exeter.
Well, no, the road, yeah. I've driven
Hollow Road.
I used to drive down the road to scare my friends.
me, his father, and him went with a group of people.
Yeah.
And that was years ago before we met up for YouTube. But, no, the whole thing with, like you were saying, how Ghost Hunters was fake. We personally know somebody that used to be involved in TAPS.
Yeah, and that's how I found out.
And that's why he left TAPS. Because he was like, he came up with this. So they collaborated this idea, and then they went all fake. He's like, I'm out of here.
The problem with TAPS, they were good.
They were really good before Discovery.
Exactly. Yeah. But I can tell you right up front what's wrong with Ghost Adventures right up 100%.
Oh God!
Is because they overindulge in every little thing.
And
a dust in the air, a ball of dust. You see you see an orb in the sky. What do you think? You
dust.
think dust? You think dust? I think dust or a ball of energy or a bug. It's one of those three.
Yeah.
All right. Then it's like, oh my God, we're fucking haunted.
Their actual documentary though,
where he's down in the basement in the freaking
that was real. You could tell they were freaking scared.
Yeah.
You can tell they were scared.
But the thing is, Ghost Hunters started to get bad because I remember watching one of the live episodes. I think they were at the place that they did Stephen King, the big hotel.
Oh, the hotel, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
they were on the roof, all right, and I'm down the live chat, all right, and they're sitting. I heard a
one
voice.
of the Halloween episodes.
I heard a voice say something. It was dead of air, quiet, and they go, "Oh, it was nothing." I'm like, it's an EVP. You wouldn't know because you're live.
Yeah,
like we heard it. Because it's a different recording, it's cycling through a different system.
I don't know when they had Meatloaf on, I was done.
Well, no, and they were caught like the live events were caught more than once. People saw the props they were using and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Meatloaf?
they were caught more than once.
Nothing's wrong with Meatloaf. They just had him as a
everything's
guest.
wrong with Meatloaf.
It was ridiculous. And I mean, I got like
Meatloaf.
and that's the way it was. Like, I do not trust any paranormal investigator on film anymore at all.
Well, that's why I stick to my guns. If we have ever built it up again, it's going to be, if we do a haunting, we're going to find a place that supposedly is haunted, and we're going to try to disprove it. We're not going in there to go, okay, this place is haunted, we're going to look into it and find the ghost.
Yeah.
No,
But
I'm going to look for electrical wires. I'm going to look for everything I can to find something that's wrong.
Well, we came up with the conclusion because we got a strange photo during our investigation, and this is where I based a lot of my conclusions off of. And what I found was, because obviously I'm into physics and obviously a lot of theories with that, I am pretty sure if the M theory is right, that's another dimension bleeding over very briefly.
I heard that a lot.
All right. Well,
and most likely, I'm pretty sure that's true because we had a picture that showed a priest literally standing in front of us. Like, it was in a slight silhouette. There's nobody there but us. This slight priest in a very fine silhouette. You could see him with the holy water stick going like this. And it was like... So
were you at a church?
We were near a church.
Okay.
And you could see he was doing this at us like we were demons. Like he was throwing holy water at us. So if he saw us the same time we were seeing him, he thinks we're the demons.
Well, I mean, I know when I went to Fort Wetherall in Jamestown, there's a little corridor that's about like this big. I took a picture and there was no light in there whatsoever. I know I caught a mist shadow figure. It looked like a person.
It's creepy as hell, though.
But when you walk in those small corridors, if you walk, and you don't think I don't think you've ever took you in the inside of it.
We went inside.
No, not the area I've been in.
Oh, okay.
You had to crawl in.
You took me to the incinerator area.
No, yeah, but the one I went through is a little wall like this big, and you had to go sideways. And I went sideways, took a picture.
You said it collapsed.
Well, one of the sides did, and I took a picture of it, and I have it on my Facebook. It's just a picture of a mist in the shape of a person, peering over.
Well, with his alternate dimension thing, there's a lot of times where that I've seen that people will take like a picture, and there'll be like a ghostly image of a barn.
Oh yeah,
and it's like, what? Why is there a barn there? Then there's other times where people will, like, there was a like a Civil War. It's a house that's still around since the Civil War. That was where people that were injured were getting.
Oh, they were being taken
infirmary.
Yeah, but it was in the basement, and they had like some kind of elevator. So in this time, somebody was going down in the basement to like do laundry or something, and when the door opened, they saw like all these dying people and doctors.
Well, that's like,
and they looked at each other.
Well, that's like with like the where they were storing bodies and they were bringing bodies into like our local library, and that's why like a lot of people say that's haunted.
I know the one photo, and then just we can end it from here. It's the one photo I did take years ago that I disproved a couple years ago. Actually, I went to Ashley Cemetery, and I caught this large blue.
Which one? The big veteran cemetery?
What?
The big veteran cemetery?
The one behind Main Street Pizza.
No, it's the veteran cemetery.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had this long blue stream of light. It just carried around in a circle like that, and I couldn't prove it. And then I came to realization it probably was a power line at that point, but I couldn't prove it at the time because it was bright orange on the side and blue going around like that. I said the only thing it could be is a power line.
It matters what your shutter speed was and stuff too.
Well, it was an old Nikon Coolpix.
Yeah.
It's shitty camera.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the shutter speed could have been delayed.
Yeah, who knows?
Or something. Yeah.
But
Who knows?
eventually.
Because that's what causes those weird streaks is the shutter, like the speed in between when the shot takes off.
Well,
like I know there's some people at work that would like to do something like that.
Well, I know places. It's just a matter of when and where.
Yeah, there's only
the biggest thing is like a night vision camera.
There's only a very, very, very few people that have. The only few places I've ever found that actually seem somewhat legit haunted. A lot of places are just not.
Every place can be haunted. It's a matter of taking patience. Like, that's the proof I had when I went to my investigations. My friend's house, never thought it was haunted. We just dropped it, the recorder down, and left. Yeah. And that's where I found
now when you do that kind of stuff is okay. So say it was never haunted. I never thought about that, right? And then you go do it and you catch things. Now, is that bringing them out, or is just things you never realized before?
Well, things you don't realize before. Like my first ever experience. Like I grew up in a house that was semi-haunted. That's how I've seen things. But the first ever experience was a house down the street from mine, and my sister's boyfriend had a band at the time, and they were recording for their band, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, literally, the sound completely cuts out on the tape, and it says it's like you never record your gun, and it says some other jargon, whatever, in like Latin.
And that kind of sounded cool.
I was like, my sister, my sister's boyfriend's mom came to my mom because my mom was normally working with the church and said, "Is it possible to get a priest to possibly come to this house?" Right? And I was there, like I was a little kid. I think I was like 4 or 5. But I remember hearing this tape, and it creeped me out as a kid.
Oh, sure.
Like I was like, "Holy crap!" And I remember because I lived down the street from it. That house went through like I think within from when I was like 5 years old till I was like 20. I remember that like at least 5 or 6 people went and bought and sold that house. So something obviously is happening in that house.
What was that on?
On Spring Street in Hill Valley.
Yeah, I still have experience to this day. I still have sensations and feelings. And
I know there's a place you should really go.
And I hear
it's next to Dairy Queen. There's a house. It's completely disheveled, man.
Just fall apart.
Oh my god.
Those are not haunted. They just fall apart.
Anyway. Supposedly a guy died in it, but
it looks like a miniature Rolls Red.
Oh, jeez.
It's pretty bad.
Okay, so we don't have much time to get to these next topics, but they're all about Marvel.